Are you saying then when we watch Star Wars and we see Chewbacca, right? Is Chewbacca possibly Sasquatch? You are a remote viewer. You've looked at these things, and does Sasquatch exist? Hi, this is Daniel Lakstins, and you're listening to the Ultimate Reality Surfing Program. Be sure to subscribe and hit the bell so that way you can always get this awesome content for helping you to create the best life ever. Hey, welcome to the Ultimate Reality Surfing Podcast. I'm Daniel Lakstins, your host, and I have my co-host, Todd Ronan. Hey, Todd.
Hey, Daniel, how are you?
Doing fantastic. Just thinking about, the Loch Ness Monster and Sasquatch and all these things. When I was growing up, and I'm sure you were in the same boat as me, the cartoons would always have different elements showing of these concepts that, the fountain of youth. We hear all these different things that were passed down for hundreds of years, sometimes thousands of years. But I wanted to get into that because I know that you are a remote viewer. You've looked at these things and you have a lot of insight when it comes to learning, to know. I mean, does Sasquatch exist?
Yes, in multiple places, Sasquatches exist. Yeti, abominable snowman, they're not a single species. So people often they confuse grays as a single species. There are many different Sasquatches. So you'd have to ask me about an individual event, an individual sighting, and I could do a session, get you more information about it. But I can speak generally about most of the species.
Now, does that mean that Sasquatch is a alien race that people have seen on the Earth?
Yes, the Sasquatch primarily, I would say 80% of the sightings are ETs vacationing here on Earth. So they're higher vibrational beings. They're able to move in and out of our visual frame or visual senses, and they can appear and disappear. And we wonder how they did that. Well, they're just materializing. They can materialize in one place and materialize in another place. Like if we envision ourselves to have transporters in the future, like they do on Star Trek, well, Sasquatch has those and they can utilize them.
That's interesting. So, are you saying then when we watch Star Wars and we see Chewbacca, right? Is Chewbacca possibly Sasquatch?
No, I don't think the Wookiee was representative of the Sasquatch. I think it was a different race. And I've
But is it
actually
possible that
done.
Steven Spielberg, because a lot of these guys that and girls that write these type of shows and programs, you can see they're tapped in. They're tapped into the universal consciousness. A lot of the concepts that especially even Gene Roddenberry. But I'm just wondering if Steven Spielberg was tapped in and then saw this alien because Chewbacca comes from a planet.
We're talking about George Lucas on the Star Wars
Oh yeah,
front.
George
So
Lucas.
was George Lucas tapped into that? And did he see it as another reality? So probably he did. I've mentioned this before that I can recall past lives that I've had, but they exist as memories or memory fragments. And I believe George Lucas did the same thing. He tapped into previous lives that he'd had in different galaxies and different solar systems and was able to see the entities that existed there. And he did rough sketches of them and then brought them to his design team. So there are planets that Wookiees exist. The Wookiees aren't necessarily the Sasquatch, though. They are The Sasquatch are a lot more advanced than I think the Wookiee planet that Chewbacca comes from.
I see. Yeah. It's pretty cool though. And remember at the beginning of Star Wars, it says in a galaxy far, far away, a long, long time ago. So we're talking thousands of years before we existed. That's what was happening.
So millions of years before we existed, and I've lived lives in different galaxies too, and I remember dying in different galaxies and living in different galaxies as different entities. I'm not always this humanoid form that you see today. I've been spider people and very strange creations that you could only kind of imagine in sci-fi. But I was those things and I did exist as them. And I saw other weird, strange aliens out there that don't necessarily look humanoid.
We were mostly talking about Sasquatch, and then but before we end it, maybe what about the Loch Ness Monster?
The Loch Ness Monster, from what I recall, it's not real anymore, but it did live there. So it was a type of plesiosaur that lived there, and it still lives there, but it's in its ghost form. So I think the main photo people have of the Loch Ness Monster is fake. It's a phony picture. But the ghost of the Loch Ness Monster is still there, and it still operates in it comes and it goes as apparitions do, because it's not real, it's not functioning. But I have never gotten, when I tried to remote view that Loch Ness Monster, I've done it a couple of different ways. We've said, look at this photo, and the photo that we got was fake. I haven't looked at any video evidence of it. I could do a session on that too, but we can understand the provenance of a target or a photo or a video and see what if it's real. And it's a fun target for people to do, because then they see how things can be manipulated, how digital media can be manipulated. And we do that with the Sasquatch sightings too. People have an experience. We can tell them if it was real or if it was manufactured or if it was made up. And but Loch Ness is just a ghost. I'm sorry to say.
Wow. What about the Fountain of Youth?
I haven't found it yet, but I continue to hunt for the Fountain of Youth. I'm also looking for the oldest man. There was a guy, this is about 15 years ago, who said that he had found the oldest man through remote viewing. Well, he made a calculated error because he forgot that there are other remote viewers out there, and he called him Ben Abba. And so I set my remote viewing team on, is Ben Abba real? And instantly we got back, no, he's a complete confabulation, and there's no such thing as this guy that lived the time of Christ. So you can uncover stuff like that too. We're still looking for the oldest living man and the oldest man, humanoid, earthbound, to have ever lived. And that's still an ongoing project. I hope to have more data for you on that in a couple of months.
Who's the oldest you found so far?
There have been a couple people that have lived to be 225 years old, and they're a lot ancient, more ancient than we are. We haven't found anyone over 200 currently living. I think the oldest person we found is in 160, but we haven't found any 200-year-olds yet. We're still looking in the past, and I'll have more data for it.
What about Thoth?
Who?
Thoth?
Tahute is a long-lived entity who's not a real physical being, but he's a composite being who has it's a soul. So the idea of Tahute,
Hermes, he said that, he's the one that I'm the one that built the pyramids. Thoth says he's the one because he says he's from Atlantis, and then he says he has a spaceship buried underneath. If you go into the Sphinx, underneath the Sphinx, there's a tunnel, and he has a spaceship buried there.
There's no spaceship there. I have read Hermes Trismegistus though, but Tahute has just animated many different people and likes to build. He's able to animate more than one person too. So as an alien, they're able to incarnate as a human being and then incarnate other people, and they have people around them that build them up. And so he's created this legion of yes men around him, which he's animating most of them. So they're almost possessed by, a Tahute or Thoth love.
That's a pretty good
excitement.
guy, though. I read the Emerald Tablets. I was pretty impressed with his personality, and he really was always trying to help people. He wasn't trying to be an asshole. I mean,
it's hard to not be, but yeah, we will always try and be genuine. It was trying to help the human race at a time when it was difficult to help the human race. And where have those ETs gone now? Well, I don't know. They're not around anymore.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's about time to end the show, but boy, we covered a lot of good information. I hope this has been insightful for you guys. And be sure to subscribe and hit the bell so that way, when the show comes out, we release these every Tuesdays and Thursdays. And we really appreciate your support.
If you
But
want to know about more cryptids or anything else, please let us know below, and I'll let you know if I've viewed that or if I have a team that's viewed that. So as a remote viewer, I teach remote viewing courses. You can check me out, Todd Ronan Reality Forecast, or at Reality Forecast on YouTube. And I appreciate it. Thanks, Daniel. It's always good to chat wackadoodle stuff.
absolutely.
Be
Have a
sure to
awesome-
subscribe and hit the bell so that way you can always get this awesome content for helping you to create the best life ever. Run over to ultimaterealitysurfing.com and download a free copy of Designing Your Perfect Reality.
Absolutely. Have an awesome one, Todd.
You too. Bye.
Bye.